Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm just got a few minutes to share with you some of the things we're doing at MIT at the SENSEable City Lab. And, I'm Italian, so I wanted to start with this picture because everybody in Italy grows up with this picture in their bedroom. But the reason is that something interesting happened in Formula One over the past 15, 20 years. 20 years ago, if you wanted to win a race, you needed a good car and a good driver. Today, if you want to win a race, you need something like this. A system made of thousands and thousands of sensors onto the car, collecting information in real time, sending the information to those computers, and making decisions in real time. In other terms, that's what as engineers, we call the real-time control system. That's a system composed of a sensing side and an actuating side, collecting information and then responding to that. Sensing and actuating is really what every dynamic system does. It's also what we all do. When we meet each other, we sense each other, we collect information about each other, and then we respond to that. So, well, the amazing thing we believe today is that our cities, for the first time, are becoming like real-time control systems. They're starting to behave like that Formula One racing car. And, just a couple of words, why cities are important. Well, 250, 75, 80, just 4 numbers, 2% of the Earth's crust, 50% of the world's population, 75% of energy consumption, 80% of CO2 emissions. So if we're able to do something to make them work better, in particular in terms of transportation, then that can be a big deal. Well, what is this then? What is the consequence of all this sensing and actuation at the urban scale? We think it's a bit what an exhibition at MoMA recently explored. The theme, the title was Talk to Me, is that for the first time, our cities, our environments are starting to talk back to us. It's almost as if every atom out there, the physical world, were becoming both a sensor and an actuator. Or in other terms, you can think it's like Michelangelo's old dream when he sculpted the Mose. So the story goes, he took a hammer, threw the hammer at the Mose and shouted, "Perché non parli? Why don't you speak?" And today, for the first time, thanks to these technologies, our cities are starting to speak back to us. And just want to share with you a few projects about sensing and actuation, how today we can understand better what's happening in the city. In terms of movement, we're talking about transportation, but also supply chain. In this case, we took waste. We decided to put, tags on waste to see what happens to it. Sometimes this is what happened to all computers. So we had to design the tag, and then, deploy it. That's the first deployment we did in Seattle, tagging a lot of waste, a lot of trash. And then in a similar way to when you go to hospital, they put a tracer in your blood and they follow it through your body. We started following all those pieces of trash through the city, see how they were moving. That's a day of deployment in Seattle. You see after a few days, a lot of them go to landfills next to Seattle. But then a big surprise. Actually, nobody expected this, how far things were moving. Especially e-waste, cell phones, what's called tech trash, cartridges, still moving after a month. And if you look at that, sometimes in a very clumsy way, like this tray is going from Seattle to Chicago and then down to Baja California. So how much energy we could actually save by optimizing transportation on this system? Well, for us, this project was, we thought the Farewell Symphony was the music we needed. For us, this project was 2 or 3 things. So the first thing, it was about understanding these traces and then see if we could optimize the system. The second thing was, how this could promote behavioral change, give this information to people and they might change their behavior. One of the most telling things was an email we got at the end of the project, somebody who said, before I used to drink water in plastic bottles and throw them away, and I thought they would disappear. Now they don't disappear. They just go a few miles from home and they stay there forever. So now I don't drink it. I don't drink bottled water anymore. And then there's a third kind of consequence of the project that was completely unexpected, but it happened when actually some burglars came to our lab at MIT, installed a lot of stuff, including some of the tags that report their location. And here's what happened. When I have 5 minutes left and 3 minutes left. So, well, this was just to share with you how today we can trace movement, transportation in a different way. We're working in many other ways. This is a project we're doing in the United States with AT&T. We're using data from the cell phone network to describe a phenomenon that's very poorly understood. Is what we call extreme commuting. People who commute to New York City, to Los Angeles from hundreds and hundreds of kilometers away. And what you see here is actually the United States, the map of the United States with the main cities. We've been using the same type of data from the cell phone network to see what's going on in a city. That was actually in 2006, the city of Rome. You see the Colosseum, the river. It was during the final of the soccer World Cup. And look at what happened in the city by looking at data anonymized and aggregated from millions of phones before the match, people moving in the city. Match begins, silence. France scores, Italy scores. Halftime, people make a quick call. And then second half, end of normal time. And then first overtime, second, Zidane, some of you might recall the headbutt, and then Italy won. And then everybody goes to the center to celebrate, and then you see the following day again, the winning team and the people meeting here. And then by the end of the day, everybody went here to a place called Circo Massimo, where since Roman times, people go celebrate, and you see a big peak at the end of the day over here. That's just the basic information, but actually if you analyze it more, you can get a sense of pedestrians. So what you see here in red is pedestrians in the city, and you can see buses and taxis, and you see if there's a good match between the population, people waiting for a bus, and actually the offer of public transportation, and how you can dynamically match the two in a better way. That led to what we are doing in Singapore now, where we are really combining many layers of information. The idea is imagine a living city, where you know in real time everything that's happening in the city, and you can share this information with citizens, with everybody. So again, it's about real-time information about people. It's about energy consumption. You got energy and temperature, and actually when the temperature goes up in Singapore, you increase the energy because of air conditioning. Special events again, how the city behaves and responds during emergencies, or the Formula One racing here. Even something simple like, taxis and rain. It's impossible to find a taxi when it rains, but if you combine this information in real time, actually you can give a good service to citizens and to taxi drivers. How the city expands and shrinks during the day because of transportation. And then how actually this connects with all the global flows of people coming in the city, out of the city, people and goods, containers and planes going into the city, and how all of this mixes the global scale and the local transportation scale. Well, in the last few minutes, in Singapore, we're also developing new interfaces with the transport authority to see how all this data can actually be used and manipulated in real time. So there's some of the things we're doing with them. So it becomes really a way to touch the data, to visualize the data, to manipulate it, kind of a data browser. And in the last few minutes, I wanted to show with you something about actuation. How do you get the response in the city? So one way is really give this information to people. That's a project we're doing with Audi, trying to think about a seamless way to give real-time information back to the car. So imagine, again, you know everything about the city in real time, and how can you browse it while you are in your car? So the idea is that the dashboard can become almost like an interface between the inside and the outside, trying to be seamless, so you don't need to, you can still look at the road, you don't need to look at other things, but you get all of this in front of you. You simply control it with hand gestures. So just move your hands and you browse it. And then it's almost like the real estate on your dashboard can change and expand and shrink based on the real-time information and what you need at the time. And another way is actually to develop iPhone apps. That's a project we're doing with SENSEable in France about looking at CO2 emissions. And we found a way actually to get CO2 emissions in real time with no user input. So basically, if you look at this, it's how a cell phone sees you based on the sensors in the cell phone. And if you look at that, then you are able to tell if somebody's on a bus, is walking his bike, or in the metro. And then you can do an automated way of detecting mode of transportation and give it to us at the end of the day to see if, again, is something that might promote behavioral change. And the final thing I wanted to share with you is a project in Copenhagen where, the mayor called us and said, can we do something with transportation in Copenhagen? As you know, transportation in Copenhagen looks like this. It was a lot of cars a few decades ago. It's now a lot of bicycles. So we came up with this idea.
Welcome to the Copenhagen wheel. The wheel that turns your ordinary bike into a smart electric hybrid. Quickly and easily, with no additional batteries or wires. The Copenhagen wheel allows you to capture the energy dissipated while braking and cycling, and save it for when you need a bit of a boost. Controlled through your smartphone, the Copenhagen wheel becomes a natural extension of your everyday life. The Copenhagen wheel is your personal trainer, sensing your effort level and providing you with real-time feedback about your fitness and exercise goals. The Copenhagen wheel also enhances your experience of the city. It connects you with things a cyclist wants to know: upcoming traffic congestion, road conditions, and pollution levels. Choose to keep your data, or share it with your friends and other cyclists through social networks like Facebook. As you ride, you also collect green miles. It's similar to a frequent flyer program, but good for the environment. Elegant, responsive, smart. A new mode of transport for a rapidly changing world. So turn on your life and turn on the city. The Copenhagen wheel.
And here is the wheel, actually the previous mayor of Copenhagen with the wheel. Now it's the third iteration of engineering, and it's going to market soon. Here is Mayor of Copenhagen, Mayor of Toronto trying it out, but I'll finish in a second. All right, I'm finished. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carlo. We'll have to switch some technicalities. How long will it take? Long enough to take... we can take one question, if you have a question. For Mr. Ratti. Because when I was just listening to the last comment, the mayor of Toronto going on about, even giving you information on the air quality, I sort of wonder how many people would still want to ride their bicycle through cities when they're aware of the air quality. Is that a good thing?
That's a good point. But actually, we did I think, can you still hear me? Yeah. But actually, we did a test about collecting data, and there's something quite interesting because today you get air quality information, you get it in cities, but usually you measure in a few points, and then those points not necessarily represent the whole city. Some of you might recall a few years ago there was a kind of a debate in Madrid because the mayor was claiming that the air quality was getting better and better, till when somebody discovered actually he was moving the air quality measurement points more and more into parks. And actually, if you do this, if you have a way that we can measure actually air quality very close to us, we can both measure exposure as persons, but also just with a few bikes, we did a test, and with just 10 bikes, you map the whole city, and you got a wealth of data that you couldn't get in any other way. So it becomes a very easy way to collect urban information.
Now, this is a lot of data you collect there, and I will drop my question, which was very important, but I'm sure yours is even more important. I believe we have microphones here. If not, just come. Don't be shy, and I'll give you mine.
Thank you, Bernard Ensing from the European Cyclist Federation. Did I understand well that where you showed that maybe via GSMs you can measure if you are sitting in the bus or walking or cycling? And do you have a system to calculate the model split in cities via this system?
Correct. So basically what you do is on your phone you install a small app. It's not public yet, but we developed it with SNCF, the French railway company. And the idea is that actually when you got the app, you see how that curve was how the phone sees you when you're walking, because the phone has an accelerometer, so how when you're walking, when you're on a bus, on a bike, and so on, and then you can automatically see the mode of transportation, and from that, automatically see CO2 emissions. So you get two things at the end of the day with kind of zero cost. You get your CO2 emissions, and you get also kind of your calories consumed. So it becomes like something like information that could promote behavioral change.
Is it only mentioned for your personal information, or can you make it a system for a city government?
Well, the point is that you give the app, and then whoever wants can use it. But then once people use it, then you got information for the city or for the country, or as big as you want.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
And all the rest you can discuss with this gentleman and the rest of you after this session and the break. Carlo Ratti, thank you very much.